we're going to get started, in fact, right now. I'll be delighted to bring my first guest up on stage. Come on down. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How are you? I'm Edie.
I'm very well.
Nice to meet you. Fantastic. So, welcome everybody to Beyond GDP, putting purpose into the UK-India Trade and Investment Partnership.
Lovely to be with you.
The UK-India free trade deal can sometimes taste a little bit like jam tomorrow, always on the breakfast table, sometime in the future. We were promised it would be done by Diwali, then politics got in the way. The good news is, of course, that politics can also get out of the way if the current prime ministers, Modi and Sunak, will agree to make concessions. But I think the point is we all know that even without the FTA, there is a lot of cooperation, partnerships, work and trade going on. And if we were to see a change in government, Sir Keir Starmer told me the other day about a new strategic partnership for global security, climate security, and economic security. So let's get started with our first session here in the IGF studio, looking at trade ties in healthcare, infrastructure, physical and digital. Speaking of breakfast, we are going to hear a little bit later from Tim Jones about how India might even change your morning meal. Wait for it. So let's get started now, and I am delighted to welcome Shadow Secretary of State for International Trade, Nick Thomas Symmonds. So let's start, first of all, with the Labour Party in India. Relations have been challenging, even a little bit prickly. Sir Keir Starmer told me on Monday that he wanted to look forward, not back. So he wanted to reset, press Control-Alt-Delete on the relationship. In your view, Nick, why is this necessary?
I think it's become necessary because it's pretty clear that the Labour Party here in the UK had lost touch with a number of aspects of the really successful diaspora community here in the United Kingdom. And what Keir was saying on Monday is that we are very much a changed Labour Party. Keir was very clear in his language on Monday about the success of the Indian diaspora community here in the UK, but also the strategic and economic importance we give to the partnership, and that's the key word, the partnership between the UK and India in this 21st century. And that's going to be of central importance to the next Labour government. So
I want to get on to that partnership. First, let's stay in the UK for a moment. You're an MP from the southeast of Wales. I looked up the demographics. Not a huge amount of British Asians, British Indians there, but you do have some. In 2010, 61% of British Indians voted Labour. 2022, only 40% of British Indians say they identified with the Labour Party. Why has the Labour Party lost those connections with British Indians? Why have they defected?
Well, that's precisely, I think, what I was alluding to in my first answer. It's this sense that we no longer shared priorities. It was a sense that we had become distant. And Keir Starmer has made it such a firm priority that we were going to change that we were going to reconnect. That's what his speech was talking about when he was talking about a reset. And I'm very pleased to be here today giving that message very much as well.
So let's turn to trade. You've been critical of the government's inability to complete the UK-India trade deal. Why has it happened?
Well, precisely, and I'm being critical on their own standards. We all remember that it was going to be done by Diwali. We all assumed that that was a Diwali that's already happened, not Diwali in the future. So that promise was quite clearly broken by Boris Johnson. Of course, I'm looking from the outside, but you do see reports of government differences of opinion within the government. Also, it
tell the Sandman to get a grip.
That we've had 3 prime ministers in the past 12 months, this churning of administrations, which has caused this great instability.
You've got feedback in the room. You need to tell the Sandman to get a grip.
Building and trying to get it over the line. But my firm pledge today is I very much hope that this free trade agreement is completed, but if it isn't, the next Labour government will seek to complete it.
Excellent. We're going to press pause on our not on the relationship, on our broadcast just for the moment and change your microphone. We're having a technical issue. So we'll bring that microphone out now. It'll come, I promise. Here we go. Than doubled between the UK and India from last year, 11.4 billion to 30 billion, even without the FTA. What more do you see that a free trade agreement could do?
So I think we have to take that question in two parts, because even if an FTA is not completed this year, and I think it becomes more difficult once you get into election periods in both countries, there are still huge opportunities to deepen trade without an FTA. A classic example of that is in things like renewables, for example. I've been having a really good discussion earlier this morning talking about things like pharmaceuticals. So some very clear sectors where we can do so much more together. But of course, what a free trade deal would do, whenever, for example, you lower tariffs, whenever you look at promoting trade between two countries with similar standards, you create opportunities for great exporters in both countries, whether that's in terms of goods or services, and that can only be to the benefit of the people of both countries.
You've said that it was crucial that human rights, women's rights, and workers' rights are embedded in UK trade negotiations. How would you do things differently?
Well, politics is all about priorities and it's about choices. I'm a progressive, I'm a left-of-centre politician, and of course, when I am talking about world politics and talking about trade, these are the kind of values that I want to promote around the world. But it isn't just about the United Kingdom somehow walking around on the world stage promoting its values. These are values that are shared values with partners around the world that we seek to promote together.
So there's a lot in the audience here from Indian businesses. There's 954 Indian businesses today in the UK, growing every day, employing hundreds of thousands of British citizens, paying millions in corporation tax, investing in growth. We know that the UK economy isn't in best position, and UK businesses, Indian businesses, can be part of the solution to that.
Yes.
So in terms of what they want, they want ease of doing business here, they want trade, for example, with the EU. How can you help improve UK trade with Europe as well?
So whenever I speak to businesses, the two issues that are constantly raised to me are stability, so that you have that certainty in the medium term to invest, and skills that are very, very important. And so often businesses say to me that there's a skills gap in their recruitment. Now, we've talked practically about reforming things like the apprenticeship levy so that we can have a proper skills strategy to upskill our workforce. But in terms of the EU specifically, the trade and cooperation agreement that we currently have comes up for review in 2025 into 2026, and we will clearly want to tear down unnecessary trade barriers. We've been clear we will not be rejoining the single market or the customs union or going back to freedom of movement, but we will certainly be looking to ease trade to the greatest extent we possibly can.
I wonder if you can tell me a little bit about what other trade agreements might be on the table.
So the promise that I've made is that I will operate the trading arrangements that I inherit, and if there are trade agreements, whether that's bilateral agreements that are incomplete, so could be India, might be the bilateral discussions with Mexico or Canada. There's also the accession to the Gulf Cooperation Council, then I will seek to bring those to completion, and that's very important. What I would also say is free trade agreements are very, very important when you can secure them, But even where there are bilateral relationships with no FTAs, that doesn't mean you can't deepen that cooperation. I think with India, I'd love to see that deal completed this year. But even if it isn't, then of course there are still huge opportunities across different sectors to deepen our trade relationship.
Mobility is another issue that
Yes.
Indian businesses mention a lot. We've heard, and that always is one of the things that gets mired in trade negotiations. What would you ideally like to see in terms of mobility for Indians coming to the UK?
But first and foremost, you need clarity in this debate, because I think it's been unfortunate sometimes in terms of how it's covered. You often get it just pushed in with a wider immigration debate, where mobility is actually distinct from immigration. I think that clarity would help a great deal going forward. But clearly what you want to have around the negotiating table is a mobility that allows both countries to prosper, but also we want to have a situation as well where we can have people in both countries, particularly younger people, who are able to experience those different cultures, which is a wonderfully enriching experience.
It's been great to speak to you,
Pleasure.
Nick. Thank you so much for taking time to come and speak with
Pleasure.
us here in the IGF studio, and we look forward to seeing what happens. I wish you a successful and busy coming few months.
Thank you very much, and it's been a great pleasure to join you. Thank you.
Thank you.